The Galactic Academy was never quiet. Even in the early hours of the day, young cadets from dozens of worlds gathered in the tall glass halls, their voices filling the space with strange accents and alien tones. Today, however, something different lingered in the air, something heavier than usual. Maya sat near the center of the classroom, her posture calm, her eyes focused forward. She was the only human in the academy, the only one from Earth who had dared to join the prestigious training grounds of the Galactic Federation. The aliens around her looked at her with a mix of curiosity, suspicion, and sometimes open mockery. They did not understand her, and most of them did not trust her. What made her stand out even more was the shimmering field of light around her body, a personal shield device strapped to her wrist. Most cadets use such shields only during live combat practice, but Maya never turned hers off. It had become part of her identity, a barrier between herself and the galaxy. Rumors spread quickly. Some aliens whispered that humans were too weak to survive without shields. Others claimed Maya was hiding some defect. Some even said she was afraid. Every day the whispers grew louder, and every day Maya ignored them. The instructor, a tall, scaled alien named Zelvar, finally decided the time for whispers was over. He slammed his clawed hand on the metal desk. The sound echoed through the hall. All voices went silent. Zelvar's golden eyes scanned the class before locking on Maya. "Human," he said, his voice sharp like broken glass. "You sit in my classroom behind a wall of light, but this is not a place for cowards. This is a place for warriors. Lower your shield." The words fell heavy in the room. Cadets turned their heads. Some leaned forward, waiting to see what the human would do. Maya stayed still for a moment, her fingers resting on the device at her wrist. She could feel every eye in the classroom burning into her skin. Her heart pounded, but her face stayed calm. She knew this moment would come. She had been preparing for it since the day she first stepped foot in the academy. Slowly, she raised her hand, her voice quiet but firm. "You want me to lower it here, in front of everyone?" she asked. Zelvar's scaled lips curved into something close to a sneer. "Yes. Now prove to us you are not just a fragile creature hiding behind borrowed technology." The silence that followed was crushing. The air seemed to tighten. Even the ventilation hum felt muted. The other cadets shifted in their seats, some grinning, some nervous, all hungry for a spectacle. Maya glanced at them, row after row of alien faces, eyes glowing in different colors, tusks, horns, and ridges marking species she barely knew. They all wanted the same thing. To see the human fail, she could almost hear their thoughts. Finally, she exhaled, her hand pressed the shield device. The shimmer of light flickered. For a moment, nothing changed. The shield held, but then with a soft pulse it vanished. The entire classroom gasped. The sound rippled like a wave. Some cadets leaned back instinctively, as if the absence of the shield itself was dangerous. Maya sat exposed, no glowing barrier, no protective wall between her and the galaxy, only her. Only human skin and bone. Zelvar narrowed his eyes, expecting her to look weak, expecting her to tremble, but Maya only looked back at him with steady calm. That calm unsettled him, and it unsettled the class. The aliens whispered again, but this time the tone had shifted. Not mockery, not laughter, but something sharper, unease. Maya could feel it too, the weight of their stares. But instead of fear, she felt a strange strength. She had lived her whole life on Earth where no personal shields existed. Humans had always survived storms, predators, and wars with nothing but their own will. She knew what she was, and she would show them. The moment stretched, tension thick enough to choke the air. One cadet. The classroom walls still trembled. The faint hum refused to fade. Alien cadet stared at Maya as if she had just torn open the sky. Her shield was gone, yet she sat calmly as though nothing about this moment was strange. The instructor, Zelvar, fought to keep his voice steady, his golden eyes flickering between anger and confusion. He wanted to dismiss the strange pulse as a malfunction, but the readings on his wrist scanner screamed otherwise. The device flickered in wild colors, lines of alien script flashing warnings he had never seen before. "Maya," he said, his tone sharper than before. "What is this energy? Explain yourself." Maya tilted her head slightly, her brown eyes reflecting the light of the classroom's floating lanterns. She did not answer. Her silence became heavier than any words. Suddenly, another pulse rolled through the room, stronger this time. The floor vibrated, ink jars toppled, desks rattled, and several alien cadets fell back in panic. One raised his claws and shouted, "She is dangerous, she is unstable." But Maya had not moved. The energy radiated from her like the breath of a storm, invisible yet undeniable. The hum pressed against every chest in the room, making it harder to breathe. For generations, the Galactic Academy had believed humans were fragile, weak creatures who required tools to survive. Yet here was one human who, by simply lowering a shield, unleashed a wave of power no alien had ever measured. A brave cadet, a towering reptilian named Drax, stood and slammed his scaled fist on the desk, his voice rough with challenge. "This is a trick. No human holds such force. Prove it to us now." Maya's eyes flicked toward him, calm as a still lake. She rose from her seat, every step light but steady. The energy seemed to throb with her movements, as if the very air followed her. When she stood in front of Drax, the room felt elder. The other cadets leaned back, instinct clawing at them to escape. Maya lifted her hand. No weapon, no shield, just her bare hand. She slowly pressed her palm against the heavy training desk beside Drax. The metal groaned, and then, before their eyes, the entire desk shifted an inch across the floor without her pushing. The energy itself had moved it. Gasps filled the room. Even Zelvar could not hide his shock. He barked at his scanner again, but the numbers made no sense. The energy level exceeded combat weapons. It was rising still. Maya lowered her hand, her voice steady. "This is not a trick. This is what it means to be human." Her words sliced through the air like blades. The cadets whispered again, this time with fear. "If one human can do this, what about the rest? How many more are hiding their power?" The hum faded slowly, but its echo remained in the bones of everyone present. Zelvar straightened, though his claws trembled slightly. "Class dismissed," he ordered, his voice lower than usual. "All of you, leave at once." But no one moved. They were frozen, their gazes locked on Maya, the human girl who no longer needed her shield, the human girl who had shaken the room with nothing but will. And as the silence stretched, everyone in that room knew a truth they would not forget. The galaxy had misjudged humanity, and now the first crack in that illusion had opened. Maya sat back in her chair, calm once more. Her lips curved into the smallest smile. She had not wanted this moment, but she was ready for it, because this was only the beginning. The Academy Hall did not feel like a classroom anymore. It felt like a battlefield waiting to explode. Desks and glowing lanterns stood untouched, but the air was heavy, almost alive. Every alien cadet sat frozen, their eyes locked on Maya, the only human in the room. She looked calm, too calm, her shield gone. Yet she carried herself like she was stronger than anyone there. The earlier shockwave had not weakened her. It had made her presence even sharper. One cadet whispered in a trembling voice, "She does not need the shield. She is the shield." The words spread like fire. The cadets repeated them in hushed tones, claws tapping nervously on desks, wings twitching, horns shaking. They were predators on their own worlds. But here, in front of a single human, they felt prey for the first time. Zelvar, the instructor, slammed his clawed hand on the desk again to silence them, but his voice carried less authority now. "Enough," he growled. "Fear has no place here. She is still only a human, one against many." But even he could not keep his golden eyes steady. He had trained soldiers across star systems, yet the energy he felt from Maya unsettled him. It was not technology, not weaponry, but something raw, something untamed. A tall insectoid cadet clicked its mandibles nervously. If she can shake the walls with no device, what happens if she loses control? Maya finally stood, her steps slow but firm. She looked at the cadets one by one, her gaze heavy, unblinking, and wherever her eyes met theirs, the alien students lowered their heads, as if instinct told them not to challenge her. She spoke, her voice steady but carrying like thunder. "You think I am weak because I am human? You think the shield was protecting me, but it was never for me. It was for you." Her words landed like hammers. The cadets shifted in unease, their breaths shallow. Then another wave came, not as strong as before, but sharper, directed. The lanterns flickered, one cracked and shattered in midair, its shards falling slowly, glowing fragments reflecting in a dozen alien eyes. The room gasped, and for a heartbeat, no one moved. It was Drax, the reptilian who had challenged her earlier, who broke the silence, his voice trembling despite his size. "This is impossible. No human should carry this power. No species should. What are you really?" Maya turned her eyes on him, and in that instant Drax flinched back, his claws scraping the desk, his chest rising fast, fear plain on his scaled face. The truth spread across the class. Alien warriors, predators from worlds of fire, ice, and poison, all felt the same thing in that moment: fear. Not fear of the unknown, but fear of the human who stood before them. Zelvar clenched his jaw. He knew he was losing control of the class, but worse, he knew he was losing control of the narrative the galaxy had believed for centuries, the myth that humans were weak, fragile newcomers. "Maya," he said again, his tone almost pleading, "stop this at once. You are breaking order." But Maya did not stop. She raised her hand again, palm open, no weapon, no device, and the room grew colder. Breaths misted, claws and fingers tightened in dread. When she spoke, it was not loud, but it carried through every soul. "You thought the shield was my strength, but the truth is this: humans carry strength no scanner can measure, and you have only seen a fraction of it." The cadets' whispers turned frantic. Some leaned back as if ready to flee. Some covered their chests as though protecting themselves. Others sat stiff, unable to move at all. For the first time in Galactic Academy history, it was not alien pride that filled the room, but the undeniable fear of humanity. Maya lowered her hand, her calm returning like a tide, and she sat back down without another word. But the silence she left behind was louder than any explosion. The Academy had never been so quiet. The silence felt alive. Every alien cadet sat frozen, their minds racing with fear and questions. The human girl had shown them something their scanners could not explain, a force that bent the rules of physics itself. Zelvar, the instructor, tried to steady his breathing. He wanted to control the room again, but even his authority seemed smaller now. The cadets no longer looked to him for answers. They looked at Maya. She sat in her chair, calm, her hands resting lightly on the desk. But the memory of the shockwave still lingered in the bones of every student. The air itself felt different, heavier, as if the classroom had turned into the heart of a storm. Finally, Maya spoke, her voice soft but carrying through the still air. "You believe strength is a device, a weapon or a shield, but for humans, it is none of those." The cadets shifted uneasily, their claws, wings, and tails restless. One brave voice whispered, "Then what is it?" Maya's eyes scanned the room, her gaze steady. "Strength is survival. It is in our blood. It is in every breath we take." The words confused them. Survival was not a strange idea, but the way she spoke made it sound like something deeper, older. She leaned forward, her voice gaining weight. "On Earth, we did not grow with shields or armor. We were hunted by beasts larger than starships. We faced storms that swallowed oceans. We endured ice ages, plagues, and fire. Yet we lived. We adapted. We thrived." The aliens stared in disbelief. Their worlds had protections, natural defenses, or advanced technology since birth. To live without such things was unthinkable. Maya continued, her tone never breaking. "You think this energy is a weapon, but it is not. It is instinct, the force of a species that has fought for every breath since the beginning. It is resilience turned into power, and when pushed, it will rise without limit." A cadet with glowing silver eyes whispered in horror, "Without limit." Maya nodded once, calm, but her calmness was worse than shouting. It made every word heavier. Zelvar's claws tightened on the desk. His voice broke through. Ugh, the tension, sharp but trembling. "If what you say is true, then humans are not weak. They are predators." The word echoed, predators. It passed through every cadet like lightning. Some flinched, some refused to meet Maya's gaze, but all of them felt it. Maya stood again. The classroom lights dimmed as if reacting to her. Her shadow stretched long across the walls. "We are not predators without reason. We are survivors, and survival makes us stronger than fear, stronger than weapons, stronger than shields." Another tremor rolled through the room, not as violent as before, but it carried intent. The lanterns flickered in unison. The floor cracked faintly under her feet. One cadet cried out, "She is not just human. She is something more." But Maya shook her head, her tone cutting through the fear. No, I am only human, and that is enough. The room went dead silent again, the kind of silence that burned inside the chest. For the first time, the alien cadets realized they were not watching a fragile creature. They were watching the living truth of humanity, the truth their galaxy had ignored, the truth their leaders had dismissed, the truth that now stood in front of them with no shield, no weapon, only presence. And in that moment, every cadet knew the galaxy had underestimated humanity, and that mistake could one day cost them everything. The classroom could no longer contain the storm building inside it. Every cadet sat stiff, their alien features pale or trembling. The human girl had shown them truths that twisted their beliefs, but disbelief still burned in one corner of the room. Drax, the reptilian cadet, rose again, his scales dark green under the flickering lights. He towered over Maya, muscles rippling beneath his training uniform, his claws scraping the desk as he leaned forward. Words mean nothing, human. Tricks mean nothing. Face me, now. The class gasped, some in fear, some in excitement. The challenge was reckless, but no one dared to stop him. Zelvar, the instructor, hesitated. His claws tightened on the edge of his desk, but he stayed silent. Deep down, he wanted to see the truth as well. Maya slowly stood, calm as ever, her hands relaxed at her sides. No shield, no weapon, only her steady gaze. She tilted her head slightly. You wish for a duel. Yes, Drax hissed, his voice dripping with rage. And without your shield, without your lies, I will break you. The energy in the room shifted instantly. Cadets leaned forward, eyes glowing in colors of fear and curiosity. Wings twitched, tails curled, hearts pounded. This was no longer a lesson. It was a test of survival. Zelvar finally spoke, his tone heavy. If this is to happen, it will be done here. No blades, no plasma, no technology, only body and will. His gaze shifted to Maya. Do you accept? Maya's lips curved into the faintest smile. I accept. The word sent a ripple through the room. Desks scraped as cadets pulled back to make space. The open floor became their arena. The lights above buzzed nervously as if even the machines feared what was about to unfold. Drax moved first, his heavy frame thundering across the floor. His claws slashed through the air toward Maya, fast and brutal, the kind of strike that had crushed opponents in training before. But Maya did not flinch, her body bent with fluid grace. The claws missed her by a breath. The force of his strike cracked the wall behind her. Dust raining down, gasps erupted from the cadets. Before Drax could recover, Maya moved, her steps light but sharp. She did not strike with claws or fists. She simply sidestepped, forcing him to stumble. Her movements were not of a soldier, but of something primal, unpredictable. Drax roared, his tail whipped around, aiming to knock her from her feet. But Maya leaped, landing softly behind him, her hand pressed lightly on his shoulder, and with that single touch, a pulse surged through him. The reptilian cadet staggered, his knees buckled for a moment, his scales shivered as if ice had crawled into his blood. He spun with fury, but his strikes now carried hesitation. The cadets shouted, their voices echoing. She touched him, and he felt it, he actually felt it. Maya circled Drax, her calm more terrifying than his rage. You fight with muscle and anger, but strength is not fury, strength is control. Her words cut deeper than her movements. Drax roared again, but this roar was different, strained, desperate. He lunged once more, claws wide, but Maya met him this time, her small frame colliding against his massive chest. The sound thundered through the room, yet it was Drax who fell back, crashing against the desks, wood and metal splintering beneath him. The classroom erupted in shouts, wings spread, tails lashed, eyes widened, disbelief shook them all. Drax groaned, trying to rise, but the look in his eyes was no longer rage, it was fear. Maya stepped closer, her shadow falling across him. Now you see, humans do not need shields. We are the storm behind them. Drax's claws trembled as he lowered his gaze. The proud reptilian warrior could not speak. His silence was louder than surrender, and in that moment the classroom shifted again. The fear of Maya had become something larger. Respect mixed with terror, awe twisted with uncertainty. The duel was not just a fight, it was a message that the galaxy had never wanted to hear, that humans were not fragile, they were inevitable. The duel ended, but its echo did not fade. The classroom was silent except for the sound of Drax's heavy breathing. Maya stood calmly, her eyes steady, her hands loose at her sides. She had not needed weapons. She had not needed armor. Her very presence had been enough. Every cadet in that room carried. Every cadet in that room carried the memory like a scar. They would speak of it to their friends, their clans, their families, and soon it would spread. Whispers carried faster than ships, faster than light. By the time the sun of Zelvar's world dipped behind the Academy towers, the story was already traveling, through comms, through messages, through frightened retellings. The human dropped her shield, they whispered, and the air itself shook. She fought without claws, without blades, and the reptilian fell. She is only one, but she is stronger than many. By the next cycle, the whispers reached beyond the Academy, across starports, military barracks, and trading halls. Soon entire fleets spoke the name Maya with unease. In the Galactic Council chamber, carved of crystal and steel, the great representatives of 100 species gathered in restless murmur, their voices overlapping, their tendrils, wings, and horns twitching with agitation. "This is dangerous," one hissed, a feathered ambassador slamming his staff against the floor. "We allowed humans into the Academy to test their worth, not to unleash this." An armored reptilian delegate growled, "If one human cadet can bring fear into a room of warriors, what happens if Earth sends many more?" Others muttered, "This must be controlled. The humans must be watched. Perhaps their rise must be stopped before it spreads." But not all agreed. A silver-skinned delegate leaned forward, her eyes glowing pale blue. "Or perhaps," she said slowly, "we are seeing the truth too late. Perhaps humanity was never weak, only waiting." The chamber erupted in chaos. Some shouted for caution, others demanded action. Fear had found its way into the highest seats of power. Back at the Academy, Maya sat alone in her quarters, the light dim, the hum of the city faint outside. She knew the whispers were spreading. She could feel the weight of it pressing against the walls, against the stars themselves. She remembered Earth, the small blue world so often ignored, yet every memory of her people was filled with survival, hunger, storms, wars, and still, humanity endured. Now the galaxy was beginning to understand. Zelvar stood outside her quarters, his clawed hands clasped behind his back, his golden eyes no longer filled with scorn. He had seen cadets tremble before her. He had felt the pulse of her strength. At last he spoke through the door, his voice low. "The Council will not ignore this. They will fear you. They will fear all of you." Maya's reply came soft, steady, but with a weight that seemed to bend the air. "Let them fear. Fear is the beginning of respect, and respect is the beginning of truth." Zelvar bowed his head, though she could not see it. For the first time in his long years as a warrior, he felt small, not because of his weakness, but because he had witnessed something greater than strength. Beyond the Academy walls, fleets stirred, councils argued, and species debated. But in every whisper, in every frightened voice, one truth grew louder. Humanity was no longer an afterthought, no longer dismissed, no longer ignored. The galaxy had felt the first shockwave, and the second was yet to come. The Academy would never be the same. The duel had ended, but its shadow stretched far beyond those walls. Every cadet carried the memory in their hearts, a truth they could not erase. But the galaxy itself was stirring. Whispers had already reached fleets and councils, stories twisting into legends, yet none of them captured the true weight of what had happened. Only those who stood in that classroom knew, and they trembled at the memory. One cycle later, the Galactic Council summoned Maya, the human cadet, into their crystal chamber. The hall was vast, towering pillars carved from ancient stone and glowing metal. Representatives of 100 species sat in circles of light, their voices overlapping like waves crashing. She walked into the center without a shield, no armor, no escort. Her footsteps steady against the echoing floor. Eyes from every corner followed her, eyes filled with fear, curiosity, and something else, respect. The council leader, a massive figure with a crown of bone ridges, leaned forward, his voice booming. "Human, you shook an academy. You frightened warriors. You disrupted order. Do you deny it?" Maya raised her head, her voice calm. "I do not deny it." Murmurs spread like fire, claws tapped. Wings fluttered, tails lashed. The council chamber shook with unrest. Another representative hissed, "You are dangerous. Your kind hides power we cannot measure. If humans spread unchecked, the balance of the galaxy will shatter." Maya's eyes swept across them. She spoke not with anger but with weight. "The balance you fear has never been real. You thought humans were weak because it was easier to believe, but weakness was never our story." Her words struck them. The chamber quieted. She stepped forward, her shadow stretching across the glowing floor. "We are not shielded because we do not need shields. We are not armed because our survival is our weapon. Every storm, every predator, every war we faced forged us, until fear itself became part of us, until pain became power, until survival became instinct." The air thickened. The chamber lights dimmed, as if the room itself was listening. Maya's voice deepened, not louder, but heavier. "You fear humans because you finally see us, not as fragile, but as inevitable. You fear us because your eyes have opened to a truth you cannot close again." A cold silence followed, the kind of silence that presses against the skin. Then, as if on command, another hum filled the chamber, the same hum that had shaken the classroom, stronger now, pulsing through the crystal walls. Delegates grabbed their desks, their devices screamed warnings, but Maya did not move. She only stood there calm. The energy radiated outward, invisible but unstoppable. It pressed into every heart, every mind, and for a moment every species in that room felt it. The weight of humanity, the resilience that no technology could measure. Zelvar, standing at the edge of the chamber, whispered the words he had once denied. "They are the storm. They are the shield." Maya finally spoke again, her tone steady, almost gentle, but it cut through the chamber like fire. "Do not mistake this for a threat. It is a truth. Humanity does not seek to conquer. But if you try to break us, we will not fall, we never have, and we never will." Her eyes locked with the council leaders, and he, a being feared across star systems, lowered his gaze first. The hum faded slowly, leaving the chamber trembling in silence. And in that silence, the galaxy shifted. The cadets who had mocked her now whispered her name with reverence. The council who had doubted her now sat in unease, and across the stars, species who had dismissed humanity began to wonder if they had made the greatest mistake of their age. Maya turned, her steps steady, leaving the chamber as calm as she had entered, but the weight of her presence remained behind, because in that moment the galaxy finally understood. Humans did not need shields. Humans were the shield.